Okay, so what we're going to look at now is a bit of place value with our decimals. So hopefully up until this point we are happy with the idea that we've got our columns where we've got the units, we've got the tens, we've got the hundreds, we've got our decimal point there. And we should be vaguely aware that after that we've got the tenths, after that comes the hundredths. Okay, so that should be the kind of setup we've seen before, and we can start chucking a number in. You know, we could have 321.45. Okay, that kind of idea. What we want to try and do here is we want to make sure that we're happy with where all these things come from and that we can deal with things beyond the decimal point. So looking at the examples that we've got, looking across at the shapes, first thing we're going to try and do is we're going to try and pick out the fraction of the shape that is coloured in blue here. So looking at the first rectangle, I've got 1 bit coloured in out of 10 altogether. So my fraction there is just 1/10. How do we talk about that as a decimal? Well, if we think about what our column headings were, okay, my teeths after my decimal point, that was tenths. Okay, and so what I've got there is 1/10 as a fraction. And so hopefully we are starting to see the link between these two things. And so if I had 1/10, I've got 1 there, my decimal point, my 0. That's where this idea is coming from. If I look down to the next one, I've got 3 boxes coloured in blue, so I've got 3 of them, again, out of 10. So I've got 3/10 there. So if 1/10 was 0.1, 3/10 is 0.3. Again, as a number, 0.3. Next one, third example then, I've got 5 of them coloured in out of 10. Okay, and if we're a little bit quicker with our fractions, we could also have spotted that was the same as 1/2, but for the sake of changing it to a decimal, we're going to still think of it as 5/10. So it becomes 0.5. 0.5 over there. Okay, we're going to try and build this up a little bit more. We're going to look at these pinky rectangles. So when we are looking at the first one, we've got one whole. So I've got one whole rectangle coloured in to start with, and then I've got the next one that's got a bit of it coloured in, or a bit of it missing. And so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bits coloured in. Again, still just out of 10. So it's 1 whole and 7/10. So that gives me 1 whole and my 7/10. Thinking back to our table just a second ago, 1 whole, 7/10. Look at the next one, I've got 2 whole shapes coloured in, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bits out of 10. Okay, again, looking at that fraction that's coming here, you might want to be writing this as 2 whole and 2/5. Okay, but we'll look at simplifying fractions later. Just now, we're not worried about that too much. But if we were to write that as a decimal, he says, having kind of missed his column out a wee bit here, we're going to end up with 2.4. Thirdly, we've got 1 whole coloured in, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bits out of 10. 9 out of 10. When we're looking at these ones that are fuller, it might be easier, again depending on your point of view, just to count the bits that are not coloured in. We knew there was 10 there altogether, and 1 of them wasn't coloured in. That means that 9 of them must be coloured in. So we've got 1 and 9/10. It's just 1.9 as my decimal. And so we need to be able to convert between this idea of a fraction into the decimal part. Moving on to these squares then, this becomes a little bit more complicated, but only because it's out of more bits. Okay, the principle still stands the same. What I want to do is find how many of them are coloured in out of how many were there altogether. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's 10 in a row here. So it's 10, 20, 30, 1, 2. So I've got 32 out of, well, there's 10 across the way, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 down. So there must be 100 squares in this shape altogether. So that gives me 32 out of 100, 32 hundredths. Well, again, thinking back to my column, we had tens, we had units, we had tenths, and the column after that was our hundredths. Okay, and so if we've got 32 hundredths, we're going to end up having 0.32. Okay, so my decimal here, 0.32. Okay, again, when we're thinking about it, we've got one strip of 10 there. We've got another strip of 10, another strip of 10. So we had 3 tenths and 2 hundredths left over there, and that's how this kind of helps to carry this idea in. Looking at the next one, we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 67. Again, out of 100. And so that is the decimal. It's going to give me 0.67. And so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 complete rows of 10. And so that's where I'm getting my 6 tenths from. So it becomes 0.67. Moving down to the next bit then. Okay, what we're doing is we're still looking at these kind of column headings, but rather than writing tenths and hundredths, okay, we're just writing them as the fractions that they are. So tenths, 1 over 10, hundredths, 1 over 100. Okay, what we want to try and do is, using these numbers here, we want to pick out how much each of the circled digits is worth. So here, the 4 is just equal to 4 units. Here, we're looking at 3, so that is equal to 3 tens. And here, the 1 is in the tenths column, so it's 1 tenth. Okay. So looking at some more of these in our example, all we're doing this time is the same thing, we're just picking the underlined number. So just like we did before, I want to know how much the number in each of these that's underlined is actually worth. So here, the thing that's underlined is the 7. So which column is it in? Well, I've got my units, I've got my tenths, I've got my hundredths. It's actually 7 hundredths. Moving down to the next one, which column is my 6 in? Well, it's in the tenths column. So 6 here is equal to 6 tenths. One below that, I'm looking at the 8. Now it's in the units column, so it's 8 units. Moving across to the fourth one, the 9. It's in the tens column, so we've got 9 tens. Fifth example, we've got 2. Now it's in the hundreds column, so I've got 2 hundreds. And finally, my 3 gives me 3 hundredths. Okay, we're remembering the ths bit when it comes after our decimal point. Okay, extending this idea even further, now we are pushing on to our thousand and our thousandths column. So we're extending our number one column at the left, one column at the right. Absolutely same idea that we are looking at here. So what I'm going to try and do is pick out how much each digit that's circled is worth. So in the first one, I've got the 8, so that is equal to 8 hundredths. Next one, I've got 4, so that is equal to 4 hundredths. And finally, I've got my 2, and that is equal to 2 tenths. So that's what I'm looking at there. Something you'll be asked to do that often provides a little bit more of a challenge than it needs to be is when we're asking you to order decimals. Okay, and this is where this kind of misunderstanding around how much the decimals are worth comes into play. So we're going to have a look at ordering some of these decimals. It says it's the second one. We're only going to do one, so we can ignore that bit there. And we want to start by looking at the smallest decimal first. Well, the thing that we need to get over, excuse me, first of all, is that there are a different number of decimal places in each of these things. Okay, so some of the numbers have 2 decimal places and some of them just have 1. And so what we're going to do is all of our numbers that have just 1 decimal place, like my 0.4 down here, I am just going to add in a 0. And I'm going to make sure that all my numbers here have the same number of decimal places. So there's a 0.7, that has a 0, and 0.5. So I am literally just adding nothing in here. Right? All I'm doing is I'm making it so that we can compare these numbers a little bit easier. Okay, because if we didn't, when we're looking at 0.04 and 0.4, it becomes much harder to try and determine which one is larger. Okay, so now that we've got the same number of decimal points, the same number of things after the decimal point, we can order them a little bit easier. So I'm looking for the smallest one. Well, the smallest one is 0.04. So I'll put 0.04. There's nothing else that starts at 0.0, so I can move up my digits. There's nothing that goes 0.1 or 0.2 or 0.3. Next things I've got are 0.4, and I've got 0.40 and 0.42. So the first one is going to become 0.40, and then I've got 0.42. And what we're going to do is just cross them out as we go, so that we don't forget that we've already written them. Next thing we're going to do then is keep working our way up. So we've gone from 0.4s, 0.5, I've got 0.50, 0.53, so I've got 50 first, 53 next, boom, boom. Then we've got 0.63, then 0.7, and there are all of my decimals. Okay, if I want to tidy it up a little bit, then I can write them again underneath, but I'm just this time going to get rid of these extra zeros that I added in to make the process easier. And I've already done that for the 7, so we've kept it consistent, that should be there. Okay, so that is our best way of ordering them. So whenever we're asked to order them, first thing we need to do is make sure they have the same number of decimal places. Okay, so we need to make sure same number of decimal places. Okay, pushing on then to some actual questions. The questions that we might be asked or expected to do are like the ones that are here in the box. Okay, we might be asking you to do 1.2 plus 3/10. So what we need to be able to do first of all are change all these fractiony things in kind of that column into decimals. And so we need to be able to pick out that 3/10 is the same as 0.3. Okay, and when we're doing that, all we need to remember are our headings. So we had our units, we had our tenths, we had our hundredths. And so the next one, without doing the sums, I'm just looking at my fraction bits just now, 7/10 is going to be 0.7. I'm going to do the next one as well because it becomes a different fraction. I've got 2 hundredths, and so that is 0. And there are no tenths, but there are 2 hundredths. And we might as well keep going now. So we've got 4 hundredths equal to 0.04. And then, well, last one there, we've got 9 thousandths. So we're going to need to add in an extra column here because we don't have thousandths yet. And so we've got 0.009. And we can add these numbers to the ones that we've already got. So we can across a wee bit. Let's give ourselves some space. So we've got 1.2 plus 0.3. And if we keep it so our decimal points are in a line, all of our numbers should fall into place. So 2 plus 3 is 5, 1 plus 0 is 1. So my answer there is 1.5. Next one, I'm going to do 2.8 minus my 7/10, so minus 0.7. So again, decimal points in a line, that's where it goes in my answer. 8 minus 7 is 1, 2 minus 0 is 2, so my answer here is just 2.1. Alright, next 3.41, and we're adding in 2 hundredths, so 0.02. Again, decimal points in the line, so that's where it goes in my answer. 1 plus 2 is 3, 4 plus 0 is 4, 3 plus 0 is 3, and so my answer there is 3.43. Next one we've got is, let's do it along here just out the way of it, so we've got 5.27 minus 0.04, so minus 4 hundredths. So once again, I'm remembering, I'm keeping my decimal points in the line. 7 minus 4, it's 3. 2 minus 0 is 2. 5 minus 0 is 5. My answer there, 5.23. Okay, finally then, we've got 7.81 plus 0.009, and this time we've got a mismatch. So here, when we're looking at it, my second number has 3 decimal places, but the one on the top only has 2. And so what we need to make sure we're doing is, once we've got our decimal points all lined up, we need to make sure that we fill in any space at the end with just a 0. So here there are 7 whole, 8 tenths, 1 hundredth, and there are no thousandths. But we need to make sure we put it there so the numbers are the same size. So we've got 0 plus 9 is 9, 1 plus 0 is 1, 8 plus 0 is 8, 7 plus 0 is 7. And so we end up getting 7.819 there. That's our answer. Okay, pushing on then, we've got some more of these to look at. So again, we're just working through as many of these examples as we possibly can. And so what we're going to be expected to do is we're going to be expected to change the fractions in that column into decimal values. And so we're not going to bother with the column headings anymore. We're just going to change it straight into what it should be. So 7 tenths is 0.7. 4 tenths, that's what I've got there, is 0.4. 5 hundredths is 0.05. 3 thousandths is going to be 0.003. And then finally, 700 is 0.07. So what we're going to do is bring our questions back. We're going to set them out the same way we did the last time. So we've got 3.1 plus 0.7. Keep my decimal points in line. 1 plus 7 is 8. 3 plus 0 is 3. So my final answer for that one is 3.8. Next one, we've got 5.6 minus 0.4. And again, all we're doing is we're taking the decimal that fraction is the same as. So I keep my decimal points in a line here. 6 minus 4 is 2. 5 minus 0 is 5. And so we've got 5.2. Next one, I've got 7.34 plus 5 hundredths. So I've got 0.05. Decimal points in a line. 4 plus 5 is 9. 3 plus 0 is 3. 7 plus 0 is 7. So I get 7.39. Fourth one, I've got 9.325 minus, this time, 0.003. Again, decimal points in the line. Right? Cannot stress how important that is. 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 minus 0 is 2. 3 minus 0 is 3. 9 minus 0 is 9. That gives me 9.322. So finally, we've got 8.2. We want to add in 0.07. Okay, so we've got our decimal points aligned. Need to make it squared off a little bit, so I'm going to stick in my extra 0 there. I'm just going to add in my columns. So 0 plus 7 is 7. 2 plus 0 is 2. Keep my decimal points in a line. 8 plus 0 is 8. And so my answer there becomes 8.27.